All right, welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. It is March 24th, 2025, 6:30 p.m. Would you please join me in a moment of silent prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is swearing in or the oath of office for Mark Long. If you give me one moment, please. I don't need to sign this.
I don't think you do, no.
Okay. All right. And somebody here is a notary.
I am.
All right, good deal. Set up front. Do that first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then you have me, swearing it up. I, Mark Long.
I, Mark Long,
Do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
or affirm that I will support
or affirm that I will support
the laws of the United States of
the
America,
laws of the United States of America,
the state of Ohio,
the state of Ohio,
and the city of Sunbury,
and the city of Sunbury,
and to faithfully, honestly, and impartially
to faithfully, honestly, and impartially
discharge my duties as a member
discharge my duties as a member
of the Sunbury Planning and Zoning Commission
of the Sunbury Planning and Zoning
for
Commission
the duration of my term in office.
for my duration of term in office.
Good job. Congratulations tonight.
I'll have him. Yeah. I was very happy to decide to have him build there.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing. Any roll call. Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor St. John.
Here.
Mrs. Miller. Here. Mr. Grumney.
Here.
Mrs. Crawford. Here. Mr. Soderman.
Here.
Mr. Long.
Here.
6 present. We have quorum.
This is a public hearing. It's related to the conditional use of Kintner Commercial Property Parcel 417-13102-005000. The applicant has submitted a conditional use application for an auto service station on formerly stated parcel number at the corner of Cheshire Road and West Cherry Street. The anticipated process is the applicant presentation, the staff report, public comment, and the commission questions and comments. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to our legal counsel for the initial formal portion of this hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Vic Whitney. I'm legal counsel to the Planning and Zoning Commission this evening. As the mayor indicated, the first item on the agenda is this public hearing on a conditional use application for Kintner Commercial parcel number 417-134-02-005000. So because this is a public hearing, as you can see, there's a stenographer here taking down everything that's being said. So if you believe that you want to offer any comment during the public hearing for or against or otherwise on related to this conditional use application, in a moment we'll have you stand up, and this includes the applicant. Stand up and we'll raise your right hand. We'll have the stenographer swear you in. So as the process with this goes, the mayor will call persons in turn, the applicant, and then anyone else who wishes to speak up to the lectern. When he calls you up to speak, please first state your name and your address clearly into the microphone, and then you can offer the comment that you want to give. The commission may or may not have questions for you. If they do, please allow them to get their question out before you respond. Again, with the stenographer taking everything down, she can only type what one person is saying at one time. So with that said, anyone who believes they may offer any testimony or comment on this conditional use application, please stand up and raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will present will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Okay, and lastly, Mr. Mayor, before turning it back over to you, I do have exhibits for this public hearing. Marked as Exhibit A is an 8-page document, which is the conditional use application, the narrative statement provided by the applicant, the plan drawings and elevations of the proposed conditional use, Exhibit A. Exhibit B is a 5-page document, which is the public notice and the proof of mailing to the affected property owners. Exhibit C is a 4-page document, which is the staff report to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And Exhibit D is the legal description, which is 8 pages of the affected property. And with that, I will move to admit the exhibits into the record.
Accept, thank you. All right, I'd like to invite the applicant up to the podium. The lectern.
Hi, my name is Joe Libby with EMH&T. Also with me tonight is Mitch Colazarzi with Bell Stores, and Steve Schell's here tonight as well, also with EMH&T. He's civil engineering and I'm planning. Before you tonight is this site plan which shows the Bell Store on one of 5 lots. We'll get to the preliminary plat after this, but I think a lot of the conversation is going to commingle on us a little bit here. For those of you that don't know, what you're seeing is the result of, I don't know, quite a bit of work and quite a bit of meetings to get to this point. On 2/13, we submitted a sketch plan. On 2/14, we submitted a variance for some setbacks. On 3/4, we submitted the preliminary plat. On 3/11, we had the sketch plan review meeting, which was very helpful. We learned a couple of things on that, which we were able to incorporate into the plan. On 3/14, we submitted for the conditional use application, which you have in front of you tonight. On 3/17 last week, we heard the variance at the BZA, and they did approve the variance, which was a 25-foot setback on the internal streets, but not, we did not ask for a variance off of Cherry, which is still 50 feet. So that got done. So here we are tonight with preliminary plat and the conditional use. Just to reiterate and kind of support what's already been said from staff, this is an existing C2 zone, so it's not a rezoning. There was quite a bit of discussion on that. We could have come in with a planned district, and we thought it was best to keep it as a C2 zoning. But basically, we had 2 problems. We had a setback problem, and then we've got the Bell Stores issue, which is why we're in front of you guys tonight with the conditional use. You look at the site plan, just real quick. Really, the driver of this whole site plan is this road. This is the Hitachi Drive here, existing old Cheshire, comes out of this acute angle here, and working with staff and many revisions to get to this point, we all agree that redirecting Cheshire out to Cherry and creating a little bit bigger intersection here, giving us plenty of room to do our turn lanes, to do our stacking, to allow for any future growth that's going to want to come out to Cherry, can all happen here, and let Old Cheshire, we want to downplay that. We want to reduce it to one way at the entry and really focus the traffic on the new road. And we don't have any direct access on the Cherry, so we need a service road running parallel to Cherry, which connects to Kittner. So the time you put this road in and you get the geometry right for this road, the lots really just kind of design themselves at that point. So the lot 5 is what we're here tonight with the Bell Stores, and what we're proposing for that store, for that location, really, we're asking for an auto service station. That's the definition in the book. But I don't know if it's a stretch to call it a service station. There's no oil changes going on. There's no brake jobs going on. You're not going to have impact wrenches and things like that. This really is a retail outlet. It's predominantly the building, and then the fuel station. And then we'll have, obviously with fuel, we're gonna have some underground storage of the fuel here. We've got 8 pumps proposed and they're double sided, so we have 16 pumps. The retail stores, pop and chips and things like that. And we've got a car wash, and vacuum stations. This drawing is the variance drawing. Do you have the drawing for the conditional use? Cue that one. That was an older version. We've since, there we go. We've revised it, so now you can see the car wash is attached to the building, it's tucked in behind the building. We kind of reworked the vacuum stations a little bit. We're showing the landscaping and a couple of little tweaks that you probably can't notice, but this is the current site. So we just want to make sure that we, with the conditional use, in addition to the fuel station, we're talking about a car wash, vacuum, and of course the retail. We're early in the process. We get approvals tonight and we can move forward with the details. What you don't see in the submittal and what you don't see in front of you are things like the preliminary engineering that went into this to get to this point. We've got sanitary storm and water. We've got a concept for that shown. We don't anticipate any issues with any of those. Storm for this site, there's likely going to be some underground storage for this. And we've got a basin at the back of lots 2 and 3 that's going to capture the roadway, lots 2 and 3. And I think some of this flow, so you can comment on that more. And we did a traffic study. The traffic study has been submitted, and this geometry, this roadway reflects the traffic study, which indicates the signal here is warranted. It is warranted pretty early, 2026, almost right away. The flashing light at Old Cheshire will go away. Like I said, that would become a right out only, and we can talk about what we want to do to restrict some movements there with some bollards and the way we kind of force the pavement, but we really don't want any left ins there or left outs over there. And as you know, there is a 3-lane road through here, so the left turn movements here is really just a striping exercise. And then we've got the traffic study told us how long these turn lanes need to be so we can adequately stack for our left outs. We've restricted movement into this site with the right in right out here and a full access back here. And that was all figured out from the traffic study, and that's been submitted to the city. So that's a general overview. That's probably enough for me. We could turn it back over to staff or turn it over to public, and of course we're here to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Luby. All right, we're on to the staff report. Alex.
Yep, thank you, Mayor. As Mr. Luby said, we are looking at a conditional use on this site, but it's specifically looking at lot number 5 on this property, which is the one that is up to Cherry and the new proposed alignment of Cheshire Road. This is a part of a bigger development we'll talk about later when we look at the preliminary plat, but just a quick overview. They're looking for 5 lots, the realignment of Cheshire Road to create a full intersection at Cherry, and then going from the Hitachi exit entrance to Cheshire Road, which would be lighted as stated. This parcel also had a variance approved on it, as mentioned by Mr. Luby, reducing the building setback from 50 feet from the right of way to 25 feet from the right of way line. This is on all interior roads, not off of not off West Cherry Street. So building setback on West Cherry Street would still be 50 feet. Everywhere, all the proposed internal roads, the setback would be 25 feet. To go over the process a little bit, this is looking specifically at the conditional use. We would also still need to approve the preliminary plat, which is on the agenda later today. And then each individual building on these lots also would have to come back for a commercial site plan approval as well. So even with the approval of the conditional use, the user of this lot would still need to come back and get the site plan approved by this commission as well. And the same would go for all other lots on this parcel. And then any questions for me?
Questions for Mr. Blankenship? All right, thank you. All right, we're going to open it up to the public. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak regarding the conditional use proposal? All right, we'll open it up to the commission for questions or comments. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. I think the preliminary question is maybe for staff. For under the conditional use, item number 8, is a solid fence, wall, earthen berm, or hedge, evergreen hedge 6 feet high for any, adjacent to any residential district. In their submittal, they're saying they're not adjacent to a residential district. So I had to look up the definition of the word adjacent.
So did I.
I was like, the resident, the residential neighborhood that is there is it, I don't want to get too geometric, but it has a common vertex where they come together. Isn't that, should that not be considered adjacent? And thus requiring the stipulations in section 8 for fencing, berm in their layout. Is there a formal definition of adjacent? First question, do we know?
I don't believe we have one in our zoning code.
I saw adjacent as nearby. Synonyms are abut, but abut is against. Or
I see a big difference between adjacent and adjoining when you look up definitions. Adjoining is physically touching common wall, common property line.
Yeah.
Or adjoining more is near to, close by. You know, like if I have a garage that's behind my house, I'm adjacent to that house, but I'm not, or to that garage, but I'm not adjoining that garage. So it does come kind of down to the definition because that's what's in the code. So I'm interested if it's adjacent does apply, then I think they would need to put some type of physical visible barrier to meet the qualifications of section 8. So maybe it needs a little research.
We can look at that, and certainly that can be a supplemental condition that the commission imposes regardless of the definition of adjacent. But I'm trying to find right now if I can see anything in the code where it's defined to get you an answer for
I
that.
don't need an answer and I'm not going to ask them a question. It's just more of a general knowledge question for
Okay.
the council here, commission.
I noticed that as well. And on number 8, it's adjacent, but then if you flip to our packet, page 6, on number 7, it talks about the effects of adjoining property. So, the one thing I did want to mention, the apartment building, which is for 4 units, that's actually a commercial zoning district, correct? I know it says next to residential.
This one. I believe it was our zone dot 4.
Oh, it is an R4?
I believe if you pull up zoning map, we can pull up the zoning map to verify what we discuss.
Just as the staff is looking this up, we also have the opportunity to have this discussion outside of public hearing under the review item number 4. But also we have the preliminary plat review. As our next item on the agenda.
I do think adjoining and adjacent is more of our code that we need to and doesn't need to be part of the public hearing and can be in the plat.
Can confirm it is R4.
R4, thank you. All right, any further comment during the public hearing related to the conditional use application? All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, next item on the agenda, bullet point number 3, commission review preliminary plat, Kintner Commercial. The applicant has requested approval for a preliminary plat on parcel 417-134-02-00-5000 for commercial development, including 5 lots and the realignment of Cheshire Road. And usually we have the applicant present. I think in this particular one, it might be helpful if you just painted a little bit broader picture. This one's the preliminary plat, so if you don't mind, Mr. Luby.
I can do that.
Thank you, sir. There's some specific items, like, I just want to understand a little bit better, the roadway movement, so traffic flows. If you can talk a little bit more about where there's two-way and converts to one-way. I'd like to understand a little bit more about where your utilities are running.
Okay.
I know you hit a little bit on storm
Okay.
and, sidewalks and connectivity.
I did submit a utility drawing, it's got the preliminary layout on it, we could talk on that too.
Thank you.
That one's got color on it, which it reads a little bit better from further away. So that's the existing conditions plan. That's the actual preliminary plat. Go to the next one. We could talk on that. So, from the roadway perspective, this is the new Kicker Parkway. This is the service road. This will be a public road, two-way road. Stop condition here. This will be a stop condition. This will be a public road. We've got a boulevard that extends past this right in, right out. Because I don't care how many times you sign it or how you manage the pork chop. We think that boulevard, it looks nice, plus it prevents that turn movement, which is what we want. This property, like we said before, the right of way stays as is. So obviously this segment of roadway is still within the existing right of way. Where we start to peel away from the existing right of way, then we'll have new right of way. We've got full access to this property off of Old Cheshire. This is a right out only. And it's one way up until this first drive. So people exiting here are able to have full movement here.
And that's behind Voss Brothers, the Big Walnut Friends who share entrance.
Private road, but we stopped the one way at that location. Public road, existing residential along Cheshire, and some of their driveways are going to need to be adjusted to meet the new road configuration so that we can, force vehicles to go the way we want to go.
Can I ask one follow-up question since we're where the driveways are, and I know it's a little bit difficult to see. Can we zoom in on right in there? Yeah, go a little bit closer. There's that new triangle or kind of hump right here. That's within the existing right of way. I had a question for staff. Have we contemplated what we're doing with that? Are we vacating that? Are we transferring it to the private property owners? I'm more worried about long-term maintenance.
So we haven't talked about what we're going to do with that piece, but I imagine we would vacate it, but it's something that we can get back to you on.
The easiest as we're talking through conditional uses is the applicant assumes maintenance responsibility of that. I'm not suggesting that's the right answer, but somebody may want a bigger front yard and they could have it. I don't know. Okay. So it'll be just the 4 driveways that are impacted here.
Right.
Okay.
You see the solid lines versus the gray lines. These solid lines, this is inside the right of way. Right. And we would stop at the right of way.
There's sidewalk on that side of the street? Not on that side? Okay. Sewer and storm?
Yeah, zoom out a little bit, color coded it. Blue's water. We have a connection to the water line here. There's a connection here and a connection here. Sanitary is an existing sanitary that runs through the site. It's an 8-inch sanitary. We're going to make a connection here, and then there'll just be a service connection for this one. We got water on one side, sanitary on the other. Service this one. Storm, pretty significant ditch that runs through the site, as we know. Which is a great outlet. The storm will be collected for the street gets collected, and I believe these two get collected into this basin where it gets released. And the storm on this side is going to go through the development and be detained in the new basin that's being constructed and get across.
And that's on the southwest end of that. I mean, more or less, you're connecting into the storm drain system somehow for Kintner Crossing.
The Kintner crosses up there.
Yep, okay.
Yep, and it flows all the way down.
Seems like a large basin for that amount of retail space. I mean, just proportionally, it's taken up a lot of the usable space. Is that, yeah, do you mind speaking to the, either the volume, or
Steve Shell, 5,500 New Albany Road West, Columbus, Ohio, 43054. Yeah, so this stormwater facility is, as Joe mentioned, for the roadway, new roadway pavement that's going on and these two lots. And the reason it is so big, so this is kind of the outline of it. I don't know if this is necessarily water level that you see, but this is the facility. When you do developments like this, you're taking everything that was green and making it pavement. So you've got a high volume creator, is what we call those. So this is what that's done, and then that's where lot 3, 2, and all the pavement for the roads, 1 and 5 will actually have on-site stormwater facilities, most likely underground, which is typical commercial. And then what Joe explained for the rest of this lot number 4 does connect, actually, we've got an outlet for its storm here, and it actually runs through public storm sewer down to the public stormwater facility on Kintner Crossing subdivision. And then one other point what Joe was mentioning, this Cheshire connection here, the one that we worked a lot with the staff, with the village to kind of work on. I know that was a problematic intersection and in a weird connecting shape on Cherry, which was important to the village to clean that up. So we think with this preliminary, with this plat, and this development, we're doing that, which is we're glad to help out with that.
one question about sidewalks. Street A, if I'm a pedestrian and I'm walking along the south side of the Bell Stores and I'm heading east, can I cross the road to get to Cheshire? And traffic's not stopping, is it?
Being public roads, there'll be sidewalks on both sides of the road to meet standard. We've got crosswalks shown here, and there'll be a crosswalk here. On this side of the road, there is a walk that comes up and stops here. There's no walk on this side. There's two crosswalk.
Just a follow up on that. If I'm on Street A, starting from the west, moving east, if I wanted to walk to Voss Brothers, how do I get there?
We cross the street here. And
Okay.
you would walk down the sidewalk to here.
But there's no stop signs there, right? On Cheshire, the new Cheshire line.
This through movement will now stop condition, but the site.
Was there any consideration on Old Cheshire where it's just a right out, just to making that a dead end?
I guess we're open to it, and it's probably not our call. It'd be more for the city, but I think the thought was just completely closing this would affect the value of these properties by not having any access there at all, even a right out. So I guess we would be open to that, but
It is something that we discussed in rather lengthy detail. And one of the reasons we thought having a right out there made sense was for that triangular parcel. If you look at it, they have no direct access off of New Cheshire. You have to drive down and around to get into that lot. So for them to exit, they would have to come down and around and go back to the light. So if they want to get out to Cherry, that's kind of a quick access for them to exit. That roadway is already there as well, so it's not going to be something that would be difficult for us to keep and maintain. So that was the logic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Continuing with under the utilities, the underground storage tank for the gasoline facility. What is the federal regulations on closeness to residential, or is there?
closest to residential.
Is there a federal regulation or distance?
50 feet, 10 feet.
10 feet?
Is there a logic between, if I'm coming down New Cheshire South from Cherry Street, the logic around that be the right lane to turn right only and then veer to the left to be able to go straight or left? Is there logic around why we decided on that?
You're talking about this movement here?
Coming down south. Yep.
So when you come into the site, the right really doesn't require a turn lane. It's continuous right. You're not stopping. Wasn't warranted to have a right turn into that, so that just goes like straight away. And then as you get to the intersection, the through movement is on the left lane, but the right movement has its own designated lane.
Is there logic to why that was determined, that last piece?
There's probably more than one way to do it. And you could delve into that more as we get into more detailed designs. We did have our traffic department or the lane assignments based off the traffic studies with that. I don't know if you get any more.
Yeah, so we do a traffic study. Long story short, if you come in here with a light, you want this traffic clear from that light.
Mhm.
So with this right in only, it allows, there's no stopping, right? You get them all out of the lane. And then here, if you've got a dedicated right, you've got a through and left, you've got multiple lanes to clear that southbound traffic. Does not interfere with the light. That is in the traffic study.
I'm just trying to determine whether it's better to have the straight through part on the right lane versus the left lane.
Well, the other thing that was determined is there's very few cars taking a left turn here. Yeah, that was part of the study.
So we can give you those tables and look at that could be adjusted within the traffic study. This is what our traffic engineers decided was the best, most efficient way. And it's very thick report.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. This is where a lot of the school buses come out from the intermediate school, which is down south on the page coming up Cheshire. So I can envision 5 or 6 school buses coming out to that light, and then somebody comes south and wants to turn left, and they got a line of school buses that can't turn left. They're going to plug that whole intersection rather than allowing through traffic to continue through on the right lane where there's a right turn. So it could be right turn or straight to get through, and only that left-hand car who's stuck by buses is going to be plugging traffic.
We need to take another look.
Okay, I think that's probably where you were headed.
That is where I'm heading, in the sense of if that, while they're waiting until the light gets backed up and then somebody wants to turn left, that's going to
There's
back
probably
up.
15 school buses long some time of day. One left turn is going to create chaos.
We'll take a look at that.
I also wasn't sure how sharp how much you have to veer to the left, and with, I know a lot of buses even coming in through there, coming in off of Cherry, and a lot of traffic going straight through, them having to veer left to go straight through, but we'll see what your study says.
Along those lines, again, on that southbound movement from Cherry Street, the parcel 5 kind of juts out a little bit on the southeast corner. I mean, it ends up making it greater than a 90-degree turn. So if you're heading right there, yeah, I didn't know if that needed to be shaved back or if that was intentional to try to maximize the amount of space on building setbacks and things.
No, it had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with, you don't see it turned on, but there's a center line here and there's a center line here. And you want that to be radial and perpendicular, and I'm coming into a curve here. So that's what's causing that little bit of curve, so that when we meet the 2 center lines meet here, they're radial. That's why it's drawn like that. That is a really good detail to focus on as we do the final engineering on this roadway, and we'll do turning radiuses, and we'll study that. It's really a plating thing just to make sure that we're 90-degree and radial at that intersection. Plus, we're trying to line up here too, so there is some geometry that's going on there.
Any additional comments on this is the preliminary plat?
kind of off the utilities on the image depiction that you've got in there. Is this a new prototype for Marathon or is just the images kind of weird?
That's a SketchUp model, so it's not, photorealistic. I don't know that it's a new model. They have built others similar to it in central Ohio, but it does have some detail to it that is a little bit. I don't know if you want to comment on it.
Mitchell Colasar and General Counsel for Campbell Oil Company Bell Storage, and address is 7977 Hillsdale Road, Massillon, Ohio. So, and I don't know if you can pull up that picture, but this is an illustration. While the canopy is a little bit different, the one kind of people talk about in the greater vicinity here is our Johnstown location, which is similar. But this is, while Marathon has done some like rebranding and imaging over the last couple of years, this is kind of what I'll call our like downtown store, where we try to keep like a historical brick touch while we're on a newer part of your town, keep some of those characteristics. The canopy itself and Marathon's imaging are pretty standardized throughout really all of their locations. They use their branded fuels.
So I guess that helps a lot. So is this type of convenience store the type that has the little grill and bakery in it, or is it just the convenience store?
There will be, I mean, not to pitch one of our competitors, we don't have like the Sheets full food service option, but there will be those. There will be food service, a smaller kitchen area.
So like Love's and Quick Trip and all of those?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So does that mean on the traffic study, when you were it takes in consideration, the heightened morning rush, people stopping for their breakfast and stuff like that, going out of town?
Yeah, the traffic study, Steve's got a copy of it. They have tables and they convert the use to a table and that generates the traffic. I know that I did notice that they used 20 pumps in the study as opposed to the 16 for some reason. Must have been based on an old concept. So yeah, they know what that use is and they can convert that to average daily traffic and use the math to do this type of study.
Okay, thank you. Alex, how is the new change traffic light going to affect this? Is it with the right only on Cheshire, we won't have a traffic light there. So is it moving to this spot or the Kittner?
It will be in this location and at Kittner. So there will be 2 traffic signals. We'll keep the existing and then we'll work on the timing so that they sync up and work and make sense for this location. But we haven't gotten into any sort of signal design at this point.
What's the distance between the 2 signals then?
Don't know off the top of my head.
That's pretty close.
700 feet, 600 feet.
Does it just look closer than I think it is?
No, you're right. The traffic signals are very close together, but with improvements in making modern signals, we should be able to change the timing so that they sync up and work together and keep the traffic flowing. So that's something that we'll be looking at as well.
Okay.
A question on distance as well. Do we know the distance from Cherry to the right in, right out at the Bell store approximately? I'll tell you why I'm asking. I did measurements of the UDF right, and it's not a right in, right out, but the off Route 3, and that's dangerous there.
That's exactly what we're trying to avoid.
That's about 50 feet. I'm hoping this is, closer to double that. It's got to be close.
I know it's in the traffic
It's
study.
100 plus. I'm looking
Yeah,
at just
yeah.
the bar scale. It's at 1 inch is 80, so it's probably 100 and plus. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
This might be a question for administrative staff around the future Sunbury Parkway and understanding it's coming in shortly over on the west side, but how that might change Cherry Street in the future. Do we have any idea how this might accommodate for future changes there?
So, I mean,
We need to widen Cherry Street because
there are
Sunbury
some
Parkway.
long-term plans to widen Cherry Street with the Parkway. I don't have the exact time frame on when that's supposed to occur, but that is in the long-term master plan, if you will, for the state route. The Sunbury Parkway itself, we are looking at how this modification will affect it, but we aren't really seeing any sort of conflict with where it's going to be situated with this development.
We're exploring a concept called bunk streets or double decker streets.
That's a joke.
There will be many more traffic studies to follow.
And this is a little bit outside of preliminary plat, but I hope you're reducing parking as much as you possibly can for like all the sites. I mean, obviously based on use, but we're not building for Black Friday shopping volumes here. And our code, if you're trying to follow our code, I'm just saying that our code is exorbitant in terms of the amount of parking that is required.
This concept is based on your code and it just meets code minimum. I think we might have a couple of extra spaces shown here, but not very many. But we didn't over park it. This concept is code minimum.
Feels like you're over parking it.
I was gonna say, but we have asked the applicant as they consider the addition site plan, if they need to reduce parking to accommodate pedestrian movements, then we want them to do that. So when they come back, they'll be open to
Perfect. Thank you.
That's gonna be my note as well, is this approval doesn't necessarily approve the plat for the gas station, so all that can be discussed at that meeting and it can change prior to that meeting as well.
Yeah, I meant for all the parcels, not just the gas station.
I thought, for me, Mayor, the vacuums was really misleading because those really aren't parking spaces. And it looks like it if you just glance at it.
This is the old layout,
Yes.
or is this the new one?
That was the variance application.
So it's a lot better that way. You can tell that they're vacuums versus the other way.
Any other comments on the preliminary plat?
No, the only one I had was around sidewalks, and I think you hit on a little bit was just a little bit more clarity as to where the sidewalks will be if we're gonna have any down Cherry. I know with the high school, the intermediate school, there's probably, I would suspect, some pedestrians in the area, so wanting to make sure we are clear on the sidewalks.
You don't have an exhibit yet of where all the sidewalks are going to be.
Actually,
You do. Sweet. Great, thanks.
if I'm allowed to submit an exhibit, anticipating this question.
Of course.
Thank you. The red are proposed sidewalks. The yellow are proposed sidewalks as part of Kittner
Thanks, sir.
crossing, and then you can use the aerial to see where the existing sidewalks are. And just in my defense, we got this comment at sketch plan and we had already prepared the drawing for the submittal, so we went ahead and added the sidewalks to the plan and then I put this exhibit together for discussion. So what you see is sidewalks on both sides of the road. They're going to be inside the right of way with a tree lawn. It's going to match the typical section. Connects to Kittner, comes through the site and connects up all of the new lots.
Can I ask why we chose not to put the sidewalk in on Cherry?
Well, if you look at the profile, and I guess you can't call it that, but the short answer is there was just no space at all. The ditch occupies all the allowable space that a sidewalk would occupy. You can see, it's kind of hard to see, but where that green shading stops is where the guardrail, existing guardrail is, and it just drops straight down. And then doesn't come back up again until the right of way line. So we've got, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet of setback there before we get to our pavement. So long story short, there was just no room along that frontage because of the ditch.
Have a strategy.
Double decker.
Double decker sidewalks, no. I mean, it's not exclusive to the preliminary plat, but I mean, we've got a conditional use up here and like part of the conditional use we can discuss. Joe, I don't want to play hardball, but I mean, you know, there's private sidewalks. I mean, to Mr. Hennessy's point on reducing parking and doing a different site layout, you know, you can bring that down 5 feet, 6 feet, lose some parking spaces, realign some buildings. Not trying to cause a major hardship for Bell Store's general counsel, but it looks like he's sweating now. The engineers sweating beside you.
There's been a lot of discussion on this topic.
I appreciate it.
And a lot of discussion recently. Because the other issue, I don't know if you had street viewer, but if you're driven by the site, there's some overgrown trees that are along that frontage, and they look, just driving by, they look like they're just all cal repair. There's nothing in there that has a lot of value to it. Like to see that cleaned up. And frankly, I think that eventually that ditch does get put underground, and that this is a gateway into the community. It needs to look really nice. And some of the discussions have involved if the ditch does go underground, who pays for it? We're not there yet. I will tell you, Jamal's not here tonight. He had another conflict, and he's been coaching me we're going to work with the city to do something with that frontage to get it done. But we're not there yet. That's not about right. And I've had more conversations than I have with him, because we do want a nice front door there. We would like it to look really nice. Get rid of that guardrail, get the ditch underground, at least across that frontage, and then get those trees out of there so it looks nice. Yeah. So the commitment tonight is we will work with the city to get through this, but we're not in a position where we can say we're going to pay for 100% of it and just do it. We're just not there. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and that's consistent with Chip's comments to me.
And so, I mean, maybe from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and this is really hard not to conflate the two different, you know, things we're weighing here, the preliminary plat and the conditional use. But I mean, I think one of the things the Planning and Zoning Commission should consider, I think we should tie it to the conditional use, honestly, is a pedestrian access. I'll just say a 5-foot sidewalk along Cherry Street. Could be on private or public property, and you know, we move forward from there. So, I mean, I don't want to constrain you too much to say you're filling in the ditch and figuring out all the stormwater calculations. I mean, that's very complex in that amount of real estate.
Well, I like that. It gives us some flexibility. There may be some solutions here with the site plan as we really get into the details of it on how we could do this. So. Yeah, I like the way you phrased that. I think we'll work with the city. We have the same goal. It's got to just make sure that it works for everybody.
Can you tell us again exactly where the crosswalks are going to be from the southwest?
Well, you can kind of see them on the drawing where those little black squares where they come out to the intersection. So from there you can see where the crosswalk would be. That they would go. There would be one across here.
Okay. What about crossing, is that Street A?
Here.
Okay.
There will not be a signal for crossing, correct? Or stop. Signal traffic for the pedestrians.
But
I don't know what you call it. Yes, correct. There's nothing in the plans for that.
Yeah, I think we have a through movement here.
Yep.
And stop condition here, so there wouldn't be the mechanical through that area.
You would have one at the north though, up on Cherry. A crosswalk up there too, correct?
That's a detailed question. I mean, it makes sense. There's a sidewalk across the street, running along the entire length. The issue and why it's difficult for me to commit is we would need to work with the property across the street to be on their property, to make the connection. I don't know if they would object, but it's a little out of our control. We would have to work with them over there to get that done.
You could do the Cheshire crosswalk. At Cherry.
Yes.
Yes.
You still have one of these, Mr. Luby? Can I ask a question on this? You still have one of these in front of you? So the triangle parcel on the southwest end of it, it's got one red line that I think that was going to a crosswalk, but it really doesn't connect to anything. Maybe I'm wrong. There's a little red kind of stub.
Yeah, I see that. I think that's just a cat thing. There really shouldn't be something there. It should be going the other way.
Like
in
on,
line with the one across the street.
okay. That's what I was thinking too. Is that where you were going, Mrs. Crawford? I mean, that's there, but there's
Right,
nothing.
it's
going
here,
there,
right.
As you probably know, there's pretty strict ADA rules as to the alignment of those and the location of them and where the stop bar is, and we'll comply with all of that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on the preliminary plat?
I just want to be clear, just on the sidewalk on Cherry Street. So we're saying that that's still in play, the connected sidewalk went across north of the gas station along Cherry, correct? Because that's a pet peeve of mine, is a sidewalk to nowhere. I cannot stand those. It's like somebody just gave up. So yeah, I feel like that's really important to make sure that continues all the way through.
So I think preliminary plat, we're really talking utilities, future property lines, traffic flow, those types of things. I mean, I'll just give up at least my negotiating strategy and ask our legal counsel and our staff. I mean, where we have some teeth really is on this conditional use application. We're talking about a condition of this fitting within, the broader context of the zoning in the area. We need sidewalk connections, and we're talking about a 5-foot sidewalk in bullet point number 4 on our agenda.
Yes.
Thank you. With that said, I'd like to make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Kintner Commercial. Second by Mrs. Crawford. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Grumney.
Yes.
Mr. Soderman.
Yes.
Mr. Long.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
All right. Number 4 on the agenda, commission review conditional use Kintner Commercial. And we've been talking about these kind of in tandem here. I guess the first condition I'd like to recommend is a 5-foot wide pedestrian access sidewalk on the northern boundary of the entire, not just the future Bell Stores property, but the entire parcel number ending in 5000, connecting the existing sidewalk system on the northern. Whether that's on private or public property, we'll work together to make that happen. Are there any other topics commission would like to discuss related to the conditional use application? Anything else? All right, I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use with the one condition for Kintner Commercial. Second by Mr. Grumney. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John.
Yes.
Mr. Grumney.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller. Long. Mrs. Crawford.
Yes.
Mr. Soderman.
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
Thank you, Mr. Luby. Thank you, Mr. Shell. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Next item on the agenda, number 5, commission review lot split 376 East Cherry Street. The applicant has submitted a lot split application for parcel 417-411-01027000, splitting one parcel into two, creating a new parcel on the north end of the property. And the anticipated process, we'll start with the applicant presentation. Mr. Wampler? Welcome, sir.
My name's Dale Wampler. This is my wife, Carol Wampler. We're owners of 376 East Cherry Street. We basically, this is just a minor lot split. It's been through all the variances we need to make this a buildable lot. We've had it professionally surveyed. It's been through the mapping office at Delaware County. And we need this stamp to send it back to Delaware so we can proceed with our plans that we've had for several years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wampler. So this has been through the BZA, probably saw it, Mr. Long.
I did.
All right. Mr. Wampler, long standing citizen in the community, wants to plant deeper roots for the ultimate long term right here in Sunbury.
That's correct.
And he's looking for us to approve this lot split. Any questions or comments for Mr. Wampler? Make a motion to approve.
Oh, sorry. I thought there was a next step. I do have one question.
Did you want to review the staff report?
We don't need to unless you guys want to hear the variances.
Let's just let Mr. Stoddard.
I guess another staff question. So I see, and I drove by your property and I see that there's a lot of adjacent lots that have similar dimensions, a very deep lot with a home towards the front of the property. By splitting this lot, does this create a condition where the adjacent lots to the west can make a similar request and then have property? What are we getting ourselves into, I guess, if his neighbor to the west, I don't know what direction that is. West,
Yeah, you're right.
says, hey, I want to split my lot and have access. I think is that an alleyway or a private drive? that
It's
runs?
a private drive. So
Okay.
we had over 300 feet of road frontage, and the average road frontage, we went 1,000 feet this way and 700 feet that way. The average road frontage on all those houses averaged 65 feet. So we are above road frontage with both of these lots that are split. So
Okay, I'm just curious, can his neighbors ask for the same lot split? Or is there something special about the fact that he has public roads on two sides where he gets something that his neighbors cannot get?
That is, his access would be off of Walnut Street on that side. His neighbors could do a lot split if they wanted to. Their access to the back portion of their lot, if they want to do the same exact plan as him, that would be their issue.
Is it
with access.
impacted by the fact that it's a private drive and not a public drive, where his neighbors could not?
No, his access wouldn't. He is not touching the private drive at all for access. He's going to come off the street to the side.
The neighbors. If the neighbor to the west says, I want to split my lot, my only access to get out of my lot is via a private drive. Is that fair game?
And they would have to come to agreement with the owner of that private drive.
Yep, they would have to get permission from everybody who is attached to it. Typically, a private road has one owner, and then they can go to them and request access. But otherwise, they would be limited to a lot split if they were not able to get permission.
Okay. Was it?
Motion to approve?
Yeah.
You want to make a motion?
We got a motion by Mr. Grumney. Second by Mr. Crawford. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Plenty of time.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Wampler. We're on to the visitor section. Are there any visitors? Officer Alexander. Hello, thanks for being here, sir. All right, we have an approval of minutes from fourth quarter, December 23rd, 2024. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a second, and Mrs. Miller. Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Harmony,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman,
Yes.
6 yeas, motion approved.
Right. Next item on the agenda, Mr. Blankenship, it is the zoning report.
Thank you, Mayor. This past month, we had 11 zoning certificates, 8 of which were for new builds. So slowing down a little bit. In terms of new builds, we have just 3 subdivisions now. So that's why I think we're having a slowdown in terms of how many new constructions we've had. We just have Pulte as a new home constructor at the moment. So until that changes, I think once we get into the summer months, they'll pick it up. But we're just working with one new build right now, or one new build developer. Occupancy permits, we had 25. Pulte turned in a recent batch of a lot of their homes, which are now all occupancy permitted. And then we had a few other permits, 3, not 1, 2 fences and a sign as well. For where that puts us in terms of the last few years, we did have many more permits for new builds in 2023 and 2024. I think we're still being consistent as far as year on it or year to date goes. Last year, we were kind of at normal with the 25, but 30 and above, I think, is pretty historically good as far as Sunbury is gone. And then that puts us at a total of, 30 for the year. Don't have too many other notes. I am adding new pages to the zoning report starting next month. So we will have some different information coming through on pages, but any questions, zoning or planning wise for us?
Questions? Good job on the report. Thank you. Yep. Yeah, so we are, as General said, we're working right now. We have a meeting with CT Consultants in preparation to work to make an amendment to our zoning code to include some of the new gateway, the Sunbury Parkway, the gateway districts. We're looking at advancing those, fixing some of the things that are in our zoning code, and then in addition, adding things we don't have. I think we've brought up solar 100 times here, how we don't have any solar in. So we're taking a bigger look at all the gaps I identified, working with our consultant, and then hopefully having some documents in front of you guys soon so we can go over some new zoning code. Right, thank you. Are there any zoning commission members on the working group?
We have reached out to one so far. He wasn't able to do it, and we are currently reaching out to a second.
Okay, great to hear. Thank you very much. All right, discussion, new business, Mr. Long?
No, but I was gonna ask on this new residential construction, I know there's been a lot of apartments going up. I don't know if we want to look at the stats of that separate.
So those are included in residential construction. Typically, there is a sheet included in the zoning packet or the zoning report packet that includes the units per. We have not had any multi-unit construction happening so far this year. So there's no additional numbers to add to these. But if we do have one that is approved, those numbers will be represented in here too.
Okay, so apartments will show up on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we will have, we do have some permit requests for occupancy permits for the ravines coming in. So we will have a lot more units occupied as of our next meeting too, but we'll go over that and I'll make sure that's included in the report.
I think Mr. Long brings up a good question though, but when we're looking at this particular chart here, a single building of a multifamily structure would be 1 occupancy per.
Yes.
So that's important. I think in our end of year zoning report, you did a really good job showing like the split of how many single family homes versus apartments. I mean, even if there's none, it's a good visual for us to see.
It is something that will be reflected. I'm taking a lot of aspects of that end of year one and making it into our monthly one. So it's kind of just picking and choosing, but yeah, that will be represented going forward. Occupied, multi-units occupied, single family, and then new construction for single units and multifamily as well.
Thank you. Mr. Brennan? See you over.
What are we doing about May?
We're gonna let that month. You mean, for the planning? I was like, I'm the mayor. What type of activity do I need? We're not doing May this year. Do we have a quorum issue in May? Is that what it-
Yes.
Oh,
Memorial.
okay.
Okay, I will send out a notice to either move and see what date works best for all of you, unless you all have plans already set for now or have a preferred date that you would want to bring up here. If not, I'll follow up via email and we can organize that and keep you all notified.
You want to just start with an email and say,
Go
here's
from
some options?
Yep.
ABC, if nothing else.
Easy enough.
Go to the next month, I guess.
Yep. Worst case.
Possible. I don't know if anybody noticed, but the fourth Monday seems to happen regularly on Memorial Day. And is that something we should address in the code? I mean, I think as a builder, knowing it already ahead of time would be nice. And I would plan around it if it was on my schedule.
You would have rescheduled your 2-month vacation?
I wouldn't have planned it then. It's like I planned my fall trip around PNC.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Let us something we'll look into.
Thank you. Yes. Excellent. Anything, Mr. Crawford? Mr. Stoddard?
One comment. I think this is maybe the second straight meeting. I know we haven't had a meeting in a while that we had a lot split come up for discussion and approval. What I've noticed about lot splits is they take 3 to 5 minutes to approve. I'm always trying to be conscious and respectful of people's time. Is there a possibility we could put some of the quick actions ahead of the commission discussion actions to allow? What I want to say is, can we always put residents above developers in terms of the agenda so that the residents are not the ones sitting listening to us have a discussion? Is this in its fixed agenda, or can we?
For this agenda specifically, typically that is how it goes. With this one having the public hearing for the conditional use and the preliminary plat, I wanted to make sure we had all those, so we didn't have to pause that conversation and then jump to the lot split and then jump back to that. So I wanted to keep all the ideas.
First and do the lot split before anything happens, before we do any of the other discussions?
Can we do that? Yeah, before public hearing?
Yeah.
I believe we were just putting the public hearing first so that our stenographer could go first, but at the same time, yep.
There's rules. I'd like to be respectful, and they were generous to even stick around and listen to the entire discussion. Maybe they wanted to, but I think we know what I've seen is some of these things are very quick, and it would be nice to just dispense with that if possible.
Do you pay the stenographer by the hour, by the?
It's by the page, I believe.
Well, that's if we ask for a transfer. We do pay, I think there's a base fee associated with per attendance.
There have been many public hearings. There have been many public hearings that have fell in the stenographer's favor.
Yes.
But the public hearing lasts 3 to 4 minutes or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. I like where you're going though, Mr. Stutterman. I think that's, as we have more public hearings and other items, especially they're generating from local residents, I think we should look at that.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks. Thank you. I think it's one of those things we've just always done it that way. I figured, you know. All right, under new and unfinished business, I'll wait for Alex to finish writing there. I need staff's help with something. I've noticed it a ton lately. The utility markings, they're becoming obscene. The amount, like Columbia Gas is going crazy right now. I don't know if they got fined or what, but they're yellow and white flag, and like the poles there. I mean, there's one right in front of our building. I saw they got done. It's electric, it's fiber and gas. But there's other options. I know that other communities do it differently, and there are like smaller marking systems that are closer to the ground that I really think we need to enforce from a zoning code perspective. And can staff do some research for us? I'm not suggesting that as part of that zoning rewrite, we just like lump that little thing in. I think this is just something separate we can look at. Because they don't look great, honestly. Any questions from staff?
So you're not talking about marking because there's an upcoming construction activity. You're talking about permanent marking.
Permanent.
That's left behind and sticks out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan Whited was looking into this for us maybe a year or so ago. He showed us some exhibits of like ground level markings. They kind of look like, I don't know, a smaller version of what a water access port would look like. I mean, they're flat to the ground and they have something that says Columbia Gas and you know not to drill there. It's not an obnoxious yellow and white big plastic pole. All right, great, thanks. Appreciate it. Anything else? All right, next meeting. April 28th. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Miller. Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor St. John,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Crawford,
Yes.
Mr. Soderman.
Yes.
6 yeas, we are adjourned.
Thank you.